بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. I hope everyone's Ramadan is going really well. SubhanAllah, when you spend the first 10 days in the Haramain, when you come back, it's like SubhanAllah, 1/3 is already gone. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reap the maximum rewards for what is left. Okay, so inshallah we'll get right into verse 9, which is where we had left off 2 weeks ago. So yeah, to class 4, blissfully blessed Tafsir Surah Ibrahim, resuming with verse 9. Let's do the word to word first. Alam, does it not? Ya'tikum, ya'ti come to you all. Naba'u, or has not come to you all. What has not come to you all? Naba'u yani the news. Alladina, of those, min, from, qablikum, before you. Qabli, before you all. Qawmi, the people. Nuh, of Nuh alayhi salam. Wa'ad, and Aad. Wa Thamud, and Thamud. Walladina, and those, min, from ba'dihim, ba'd, after them. La, not, ya'lamuhum, know them, not know them, illallah, yani no one knows them except Allah, except Allah. Ja'athum, came to them, rusuluhum, their messengers, bil bayyinat, with clear proofs. So raddu, they thrust, aydiyahum, aydi is plural of yad, which is hand, so aydi are hands, aydiyahum, their hands, fi, in, afwahihim, their mouths. Afwa are mouths, and him, of course, their mouths. Wa, and qalu, they said, inna, indeed we, kafarna, kafara, he disbelieved. The noon at the end is for we. It's placed at the end for the past tense. Kafarna, we have disbelieved. Bima, be, by, or it's really in, ma, that. Okay. Literally it means with. By is literally with, but here it means in that, right? Ursiltum, this is the passive tense. You have been sent, bihi, with it. Wa, and inna, indeed we, la, fi, lam is for emphasis, surely, fi, surely, in, shak, a doubt. Mimma, this is made of 2 words, min, from, and ma, meaning that. So we are in doubt regarding that, about that. Tad'unana, that you are all calling us, ilayhi, to it, made up of 2 words, ila, and the damir or pronoun ha. Ilayhi, to it, murib. Again, a doubt. So this will make a lot more sense when we do the flowing translation, because there's a lot of simple grammar, but there's a lot going on there. So verse 9, have the accounts of your predecessors not reached you? The people of Nuh, the Aad, the Thamud, and those who came after them. They whose number is not known to any except Allah. Or that they are not known except to Allah. So this particular translation has they whose number is not known to any except Allah, or from the apparent, la ya'lamuhum illallah, no one knows them except Allah. Their messengers came to them with clear signs, but they thrust their hands in their mouths and said, we do surely reject the message you have brought, and we are in a disquieting doubt about what you are summoning us to. Okay, so if you haven't read the surah, maybe a little lost. So basically, the verse before this that we had done before I left ended with the translation of verse 8. Moses said, were you to disbelieve, you and all those who live on earth, Allah is still self-sufficient, innately praiseworthy, right? So now with verse 9, we no longer have the speech of Musa alayhi salam. Okay, that concluded. And here, verse 9 onwards, which we are starting today, is a direct address to the disbelievers of Mecca. Okay, so the question being posed to them by the Quran is, hasn't the news of these former nations come to you? Don't you know about them, right? Because these were people that the Arabs had been exposed to their stories, as we have learned in previous surahs, right? So this very question implies that history should, in and of itself, be a great source of reflection and admonition, because Allah is posing the question, hasn't their story come to you? And haven't you thought about it? Don't you know about that? Haven't you reflected? Isn't that an admonition for you, right? It's supposed to be a sign. History and its stories are great sources, are meant to be great sources of reflection, of admonition. They are signs, they're a medium of instruction for our own behavior and for the collective behavior of communities at large. They are a parameter of our own future and our own destiny, in the sense that if we behave in the same way that former nations behaved, then we should not feel entitled to a different destiny, right? We should expect a similar end. Allah, in His justice, would mete out the same end to those who behaved in the same way, right? So you can extract all of this just from the question the Quran poses. أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَبَأُ الَّذِينَ, right? As the starts off with مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ, right? Has the news not reached you of those who were before you, who came before you, right? The people of Noah, their source of admonition. Aad is something you should be reflecting upon. Thamud and those that came after them. All of these are things you should be pondering about, and what that means for your own future, right? Now, after Allah specifically mentions Nuh and Aad and Thamud, then He says, وَالَّذِينَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ, and those who came after them, and those after them. And I found this so intriguing personally, because I never really paid attention to this part of the ayah until I was listening to its tafsir, that those who came after them, what about them? لَا يَعْلَمُهُمْ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. No one knows them except Allah. Like, wow, I never thought of that. That all of those other people that came after the ones that are mentioned, that Noah's people and Ad and Thamud and those that came after them, no one even knows about them. That is so fascinating. It's so intriguing. Yani, what's implied is that there's no trace of them left whatsoever. It's fascinating, it's intriguing, it's also scary, right? These people, no one in the world knows about them except Allah. They're completely unknown even to the pages of history. They're completely undiscovered and shall remain so. Forget about being known. Yes, they are completely unknown. They're even unwondered about. SubhanAllah. Not just unknown and undiscovered, but even unwondered about. They're so invisible and absent from the whole scene of, human remembrance. SubhanAllah. And how do we know that? Because Allah says, La ya'lamuhum illallah. No one except Allah even knows about them, right? SubhanAllah. You can only wonder about what you know, right? No one even knows these people ever existed. So it is as if they never existed as far as we are concerned. But Allah knows about them, right? And He shall recompense them according to what they earned. But tragically, the one thing we do know about these particular people who only Allah knows about is that they were disobedient. That's the only one thing we know about these people, who are otherwise not even worthy of mention, right? And that is because they were disobedient, disbelievers. And then when certain disbelievers are mentioned, it's not because they have any worth in the sight of Allah, but because they are spelled out for us in order for us to take admonition. The people of Noah who were drowned, people of Ad and Thamud who were destroyed, right? So it's not because they're worthy of mention in a noble sense, but because they are, we must take admonition and ibrah, they're a source of ibrah, admonition, of drawing a lesson, right? So unfortunately, this is the only thing that is known about these people that came after Nuh and Ad and Thamud. Nothing is known about them except the fact that they were disobedient. And the ayah talks about that, right? Messengers came to them, but they had this incredibly ungrateful reaction. Have this, gross image of them putting their hands into their mouths and, claiming confusion and perplexity, and, we are greatly confounded when this great confounding doubt about what you're asking us to believe in. And Tafhim mentions in his Tafsir, Mawdud rahimahullah ta'ala, mentions that there has been a great deal of difference of opinion in regard to the meaning of the Arabic words of the text here, putting their hands into their mouth. What does that mean? So he says there's a great difference of opinion with regards to what this means, and different commentators, different mufassirin have given different meanings. And Ibn Kathir actually mentioned some of these different meanings. He says that they pointed to the messengers' mouths, asked them to stop, calling them to Allah, the exalted, the most honored, right? So this shows this real disturbing feeling that disbelievers would feel when the messengers would call them to Allah. It's like, that's why I like this translation, lafi shak, in a doubt, but it's translated as a disquieting doubt, disquieting, something that's disturbing you. It's not letting you rest. It's really bothering you from the inside, right? And so they have this reaction of you just stop, just stop, right? To the messengers. So Ibn Kathir mentions that one meaning is that they pointed to the messengers' mouths, asked them to stop, call them to Allah, because obviously there was this conflict, of whatever was, whatever remnant of the fitrah they had, immediately came into conflict, with the way they were living, which was a life of disobedience or shirk or whatever they were upon. It was not upon Tawheed, it was not upon Allah's way. So when you're not in Allah's way, but you're called to Allah, and that remnant of the fitrah clashes with your way of life, there's this discomfort and this disquieting doubt and this internal, push and pull and struggle. So they're like, just be quiet. And it's also said that it means they placed their hands on their mouths in denial of the messengers. It was also said that it means that they did not answer the call of the messengers, that it's a metaphor for them not answering the call of the messengers, or they were biting their hands in rage. Mujahid and others said it means they belied the messengers and refuted their calls with their mouths. And Ibn Kathir says that Mujahid's tafsir, that it means thrusting their hands into their mouths means their denial of the messengers, and refuting their calls with their mouths is supported by the following statement, and the next part of the verse, وَقَالُوا إِنَّا كَفَرْنَا بِمَا أُرْسِلْتُمْ بِهِ وَإِنَّا لَفِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا تَدْعُونَا إِلَيْهِ مُرِيبٍ. This is just what we just translated. Verily we disbelieve in that with which you have been sent, and we're really in a grave doubt as to that which you invite us. Right? Ibn Abbas, there's a narration in Kathir, a recorded narration from Ibn Abbas, which says that when they heard Allah's word, they were amazed and placed their hands on their mouths. So you have these different understandings of what this part of the verse means, thrusting their hands in their mouths. And Maududi rahimahullah, he concludes that his opinion is that these express, the intolerance and perplexity and a bit of anger that was being shown by the disbelievers towards the message rather, right? We're so surprised and confounded and in doubt about this whole affair, this whole thing that just summoning us to, it's not saying right with us. We're just, it's so confusing and perplexing and, causing great doubt to arise within us. And he goes on to explain that the reason for this grave doubt about the message, because it had taken away their peace of mind. Okay. This was because invitation to the message always makes the minds uneasy, for it becomes hard for its opponents to reject it outright or to oppose it with peace of mind, right? So the truth makes the minds uneasy, the minds of those who don't want to believe in it, who want to cling on to whatever they're upon. But why do their minds become uneasy? Because its truth is as bright as day, so it's hard to just outright reject without seeming unreasonable, right? So when they did that anyway, right, and justified it with various justifications, which we've been seeing throughout our journey through the Quran, when they did that, when they justified their rejection with whatever excuse they put forward, they did that, but they couldn't do it without losing their peace of mind. They might give vent to their doubts and oppose it tooth and nail, but its frankness, its truthfulness, its winning arguments, they inevitably produce this great agitation in the mind of even the most bitter opponents of the message. And on top of that, he continues, the pure and spotless character of the messenger and the marked change for the better brought about in his followers produced such an accumulative effect on their minds that even their most bitter opponents begin to feel uneasy about their own stand. Thus, those who try to disturb the peace of mind of the upholders of the truth are themselves deprived of their own peace of mind. Think about this previous second last sentence again. The spotless character of the Rasul, the change in those that followed his message had such an accumulative effect on the minds of the disbelievers that even the most bitter of them began to feel uneasy about their own stand. This is when, like many times, Maududi rahimahullah, he really nails it on the head, right? Such an accurate depiction of their psychological state. Such a great explanation of this shock, this doubt that is, brewing inside of them. And doubt, by its very nature, robs a person of all peace and tranquility, right? So there's a price to pay for our choices. Even if, a disbeliever, because of affluence or arrogance or whatever other reason, holds on to those, worldly material assets or rankings or positions and oppose the truth, they have really lost something much more precious than that wealth. And that is their peace of mind. That is their tranquility. And they try to layer it, subdue it, sedate it with different justifications, But there are those naked moments of painful doubt that, tear through. So what they did is their methodology was off. It was completely wrong. Instead of carefully considering the message, they unwittingly and arrogantly rejected it, right? For worldly interests, for familial, ancestral ties, status quo, etc., all comes down to dunya, right? So the lesson here for us is that doubts are indeed a very dangerous thing when not dealt with properly. We see when they come before the disbelievers, they overcome them. And the disbelievers surrender their rationale upon the onslaught of doubt, right? The message came, they weren't sure about it. There's this internal struggle, there is doubt instead of acceptance. And ultimately, they surrender their rationale. They give up, both on their better judgment as well as their fitra, which is screaming, suffocating inside, all because they are not able to withstand the onslaught of doubt. So doubt can be a serious threat if not dealt with properly. And believers also face doubt, and this is why I'm going into it so much. Believers also can experience doubts, but their salvaging factor is iman, right? And they have a strikingly contrasting methodology of dealing with this threat. They actively cure the doubt through knowledge. Okay, they seek clarification, they seek consolation through knowledge, through clarity, not simply surrendering and giving into the discomfort that unfamiliar truths sometimes bring. We are not born knowing everything. We're not, born knowing, or not even sometimes raised being familiar with certain truths that are Quranic. And sometimes we do experience doubts because it is something new, or it is something unfamiliar, or it clashes with my upbringing or my way of thinking, or the mentality that I have been brought up with in a certain environment. Especially in the Western context, this happens a lot. And what saves the believers is the salvaging factor of iman. So they have that foundation, so they don't simply surrender or give into the discomfort. So yeah, we were talking about how believers deal with doubts and how that is completely different from the way disbelievers just give into and surrender to those doubts that then overwhelm them and overtake them and deprive them of hidayah, of guidance altogether, right? So we don't do that. As believers, we don't do that. We don't simply surrender. We don't give in to the discomfort that, yes, unfamiliar truths do sometimes bring. Believers realize at the end of the day, these truths are truths nonetheless, and whatever doubt we have regarding them has to be treated with the potent drug of knowledge. Just like when you have a disturbing disease, you simply throw up your hands in the air, and just give in to the harm of that disease and just let it ravage your body? No, we don't do that, right? We face it with the aid of potent drugs and use them, use everything at our disposal to assist our immune system of that threat. Similarly, we must help our iman system, just like we help our immune system with drugs and whatever else is prescribed. We must help our iman system, which is already in place. As believers, that's already in place. That's already there. That foundation is already there. But when it's faced with some external doubts, then we have to actively support it. Just like we actively support our immune system with drugs and therapy, we should, in the face of doubts, actively support our iman system by seeking knowledge about the matter and using the therapy of righteous company and the balm of sincerity and tawakkul to get through it all, right? It's really, really important, really, really key, especially in today's environment and challenges. Okay, let's look at verse 10. قالت, they said, رسلهم, well, قالت actually is just said, right? She said, but رسلهم, the messengers, or their messengers, said, Afi is, so alif this Hamza here actually is called Hamzatul Istifham, the Hamza of questioning, or the Hamza by which you ask a question. So, fi, in Allah. Is there in Allah shak, a doubt? Is there any doubt about Allah? فاطر السماوات والأرض, the originator of the heavens and the earth. فاطر, originator. السماوات, the heavens. والأرض, and the earth. يدعوكم, he calls you all. لي, in order to. يغفر, to forgive. لكم, for you, to forgive you. من, from ذنوبكم, your sins. and يؤخركم, delay you or give you respite. إلى, until. أجل, a term. مسمى, appointed, till an appointed term. And he defers you. He gives you respite. He gives you some time. Your lifespan, your life, right? قالوا, they said. In, but. أنتم, you all. إلا, except. بشر, يعني to the messengers. You are just bashar, يعني you're just human beings, مثلنا, like us. نريد, تريدون, you want, you all want, speaking to the messengers. So تريدون is from the root word arada, he wanted. تريدون, you all want. And that, what do you want? That you would block us. تصدون, block us, bar us, prevent us, deter us. عما, from that. Amma is made up of two words, an and ma. Put those together, one word, amma. From that, kana, was. يعبد, used to worship. Aba'una, our fathers. Fa'tuna, so come to us. So bring, yani, come to us. Be, with. Sultan, and evidence. Mubin, or an authority. So sultan is an authority or an evidence or proof. Generally translated as authority. Mubin, clear. Okay, this will become more clear with the following translation. Verse 10. Their messenger said, can there be any doubt about Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth? He invites you that he may forgive you your sins and grant you respite till an appointed term. They replied, you're only a human being like ourselves. You seek to prevent us from serving those whom our forefathers have been serving all along. If that is so, produce a clear authority for it. Okay. So the messengers responded, to what they had said in verse 9, right? Verse 9, the whole thing was, oh, we're in doubt. We have doubts, we have serious doubts about this. We have grave misgivings, grave doubts about this. So the messenger's first reaction is, Afillahi shak? Is there any doubt about God? Is there any doubt about God, right? It always reminds me of the story about the woman, I believe, from Persia at the time of Imam al-Razi. When Imam al-Razi was going through her village with this whole entourage of people about him, and there's this whole hue and cry and clamor, and Imam Razi and his entourage and everyone was passing by, and she's like, what is all this noise? What's all this fuss over? And they're like, oh, don't you know this is Imam Razi, the one who has 1,000 proofs for God, right? And she said, so her answer, subhanAllah, if he didn't have 1,000 doubts, he wouldn't have needed 1,000 proofs for his existence. Anyhow, so Afillahi shak, is there any doubt about God, right? Like, do you doubt that the sun exists? Do you doubt the existence of night and day, or the creation of the earth itself? Do you doubt that? Well, Allah is even more evident than these things, because these things are contingent upon him. They are his signs. They are all pointers to his inevitable, overwhelming existence, right? I mean, no one believes a house could be made without a maker. No one believes that a house could just come into existence all by itself. How could the entire universe just come about, emerge without a creator? You've got this huge Big Bang coincidence where everything is just, in perfect proportion to support, humankind on planet Earth for the rest of, for these many millions, billions of years. Like, come on, please. Let's not be so absurd. How about we agree to not be absurd? Can we agree to that? Let's just not be absurd, right? So the messengers pose this question, that Maudud says, to those who rejected the message in order to bring home to them the absurdity of their stand with regards to God, right? For though the mushrikeen of every age believed in the existence of God and acknowledged that He was the creator of the heavens and the earth, they did not accept the message, which was its logical result, right? That He alone was entitled to their worship. If you believe in God, which the polytheists, mushrikeen, those who committed shirk throughout the various ages, they believed, yes, God exists. The mushrikeen of Arabia, the Quraysh, and so on, they believed in Rabb, they believed Allah is the Lord, but they would not go to the next logical result of that belief, which was that then He alone deserves their worship. No one else does, right? So hence the question of the messengers. Afillahi shak. You're in doubt? Like, is there doubt about God? If you don't doubt the Sun's existence, if you don't doubt your own existence, then how can you doubt the one who obviously must have created everything, right? Things cannot create themselves. They don't have a power to create themselves except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So when, people can say, oh, well, women produce children, well, that again is by the process that God has willed and declared and decreed, right? But everything else in the universe, including human beings, obviously the existence of the creation points to the inevitable existence of their creator. So how then can you doubt not just this creator, but a creator who calls you in order to forgive you? He's reaching out to you with this message through the messengers in order to forgive you. Subhanallah. And you're doubting this merciful creator? Like, have you ever thought about that? Have we thought about the fact that the reason Allah spoke to us, the reason He revealed the Quran in this month of the Quran, Ramadan, the whole reason for this is because He wants to forgive us. He wants to show us the way by which we can secure His forgiveness. Like, that is the whole point of revelation. That is the whole point of Ramadan. I mean, the revelation that was sent out in Ramadan, right? Which is why we fast, right? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Maqasid of fasting, along with cultivating taqwa, is to cultivate gratitude for this immense blessing of revelation that came in Ramadan, which invites and leads to Allah's forgiveness. When you think about the VIPs in this world, the elites of this world, right? Really important people, really, the 1%. First of all, they would never even talk to us, right? And if they did, it would just to get something from us. It would be, for us to give them some service. We would be like working for them or serving them. That would be the only time that they would reach out to us through some, through their staff or, through one of their servants, to see if we could, render them some service that they would benefit from, that they were in need of. Otherwise, they would have VIPs have no business interacting with the general population. They have no reason of, reaching out, interacting with the commoners, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, right? For Allah is the greatest example. He is so perfect. He is so majestic and glorious, independent of all, has no need, period. No need to talk to anyone, no need of anyone's worship or service. But he talked to us to invite us to his forgiveness, subhanAllah. And decreed upon himself what we know from Hadith al-Bukhari, لما قضى الله الخلق كتب في كتابه فهو عنده فوق العرش إن رحمتي غلبت غضبي. Beautiful narration from Sahih al-Bukhari that the Rasul said when Allah completed the creation, he wrote in his book, which is with him on his throne, my mercy overpowers my anger. These are the terms Allah has set up himself for his interaction with us. He's will to speak to us in order to guide us, in order to forgive us. And then he prescribed upon himself, the terms he dictated to himself were that his mercy is going to overpower his anger in his interactions and dealing with his servants that he was inviting to his mercy, subhanAllah. And part of that is that he gives us يُؤَخِّرُكُمْ إِلَى أَجْلٍ مُسَمَّى. He gives you respite until an appointed term so that you may have a chance to earn his reward. That's what this entire life is. This entire lifespan from our birthday, which we celebrate, to our death date, which we are heedless of, which each birthday leads to. These two finite, brief points. This is the respite that Allah gives us, right? Which is part of his mercy, because it's a chance to seek him, to seek his forgiveness, to seek the greatest reward we possibly can accumulate, in these moments that are like sands to the hourglass. Nothing can stop their passing, right? Nothing. Time, a depleting asset, which is why Allah swears by it when he declares the loss that humankind is in. وَالْعَصْرِ, by time. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Human being is in a state of loss. So this ajal, this time frame, is also that chance, is also a manifestation of that mercy to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And as you have in Surah Hud, verse 3, you have similar meaning. وَأَنِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ, and seek Allah's, وَأَنِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا, seek forgiveness of your Lord and repent to him. يُمَتِّعَكُمْ مَتَاعًا حَسَنًا, he will give you a mata', an enjoyment, a provision, a good provision. إِلَى أَجْلٍ مُسَمَّى, until an appointed term, right? So in the case of individuals, the appointed term may be either the time of one's death or Yawm al-Qiyamah. And as regards to the appointed time for the rise and fall of communities, it is determined by their collective behavior. Okay, this is from the Tafsir for this verse. For instance, if a capable community degenerates before the expiry of its term, the time period is shortened and it is deposed. On the other hand, if a degenerate community changes its ways for the better, its term is extended, so much so that it may be extended even till Yawm al-Qiyamah, or as Allah wills. This is what the Tafsir mentions. And you have the same message from Surah Ar-Ra'd that we just finished a few weeks ago. Inna Allah, verse 12, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma bi qawmin, or verse 11 rather. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma bi qawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. That indeed Allah does not change the state of the people until they change what is within themselves. But these concepts were just too awesome for the feeble minds of the disbelievers to process, right? These beautiful golden words that the messengers were conveying to these people, to their people that rejected them. It was too awesome for them, right? It was too awesome for their feeble minds to process. And what is their reaction? Oh, you're just human beings. Allah didn't reveal anything, this is what the verse is saying. You're just human beings like us, what do you, there's nothing special about you. So here in the reaction of the disbelievers, we have a warning against traits to be aware of, because these traits that they displayed were not iman nurturing traits. They were doubt nurturers. They led to their kufr. They led to the justification of their disbelief. They led to the justification of the rejection of the messengers, and led to the hardness of heart, of course, right? And then nothing can penetrate it. So what are some of those things? Well, some of those characteristics that we want to be aware of. One is the number one, dismissive attitude. Okay. A dismissive attitude is generally a bad attitude, right? When you're being called to truth, you're being called to anything good, you're being called to any khair, right? A dismissive attitude is an attitude of loss. It is an attitude that closes doors of opportunities for ajr and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So this is how they were. They were dismissive, something we want to be very careful against, right? And they're dismissive as shown by their what they said. You're just human beings like ourselves. Just dismiss them as human beings, nothing special about you. And then audacious as well, right? At the end of the verse, فَأْتُونَ بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ, right? Audacious and audacious and demanding rather, right? Come, bring us more proof, bring us something else. Okay, yeah, it's not enough for us that you're the best among us. It's not enough for us that those who follow you have undergone this, phenomenal transformation in their lives and characters and worship, etc. Bring us, something tangible, clear, miraculous proof, Ibn Kathir mentions, basically they were saying, why should we just follow you just because you say so? We didn't witness any miracle by your hands. فَأْتُونَ بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. He says they meant a miracle of their choice, right? And another thing here, the middle characteristic, which I want to actually mention now, تُرِيدُونَ أَن تَصُدُّونَ عَمَّا كَانَ يَعْبُدُ آبَاؤُنَا. So after they were dismissive and said, you're just human beings like us, they said, you want to prevent us from that which our forefathers used to worship. This is what you want to do. Just thinking bad of others. This is that other horrible trait, being dismissive, being audacious or demanding, and thinking bad of others. You just want to prevent us from what our forefathers are doing. There's this conspiratorial agenda, suspecting type of thinking, just thinking generally bad of others, thinking that they have ill intentions. Well, what if their agenda is good? What if it's, we do want you to stop worshiping who your forefathers worship because they were on shirk. So there's nothing wrong with a bad agenda. If someone has an agenda for you, if it's a good agenda, that's a good thing, right? And the messengers had this agenda of tawheed, these others that they were suspecting, right, that they're thinking bad of. These were the best of humankind. These are the best people from among them whom Allah chose to make messengers, right? Even before prophets become prophets, they are the best of people. And perhaps this added to the confusion that some people were experiencing, because it's confusing when someone who's the best of you, and you've always known them to be of the highest character, and you've always felt, that you could trust them, and then they say something that shatters your status quo, and challenges your authority and makes sense, but it requires you to give too much. And then there's this confusion, right, that we talked about at the beginning of the class, right? And then there's this caving into their doubts, and then just disbelieving. While those that considered the message, honestly, they were then supported by their fitrah, by the light of Iman that began to grow within them. And they were blessed by Iman because they responded properly. And they saw the character of the messenger as evidence for the truth that they claimed had been revealed to them, right? And there's so much more to say about this, but we'll just conclude with how the character of the individual to whom revelation is sent is part of the proof of the, the truth of that message, right? Because they have this character, they are the, prime candidates for receiving that message, and there should be no doubt about them or the message after it comes to such, such an elevated individual. And in fact, this is the very proof that Khadija radiallahu anha used to refute the doubts that the Prophet himself had about his own self when he first received that revelation, which transformed him from Muhammad bin Abdullah to Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he came down and he was shivering, and he told Khadija radiallahu anha after that revelation that I fear for myself. But what did she say? Those golden words that reverberated in the heavens and marked the birth of Rasulullah. What did he say? What did she say? Radiallahu anha. Kalla. When he feared for himself, when he wasn't sure of what was going on, when he wasn't sure if he was, was he seeing things? Is something, something overtaken me? Am I, something wrong with me? She says, Kalla, never, wallahi ma yukhzika Allahu abada. By Allah, Allah will never disgrace you. How was she so sure? How did she know before even he knew? Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You keep good relations with your kith and kin. You tell the truth. You help the poor and the destitute. You serve your guests generously. And assist those that are afflicted with calamity. Your character, the way you are, your nobility, the pains you take to assist and share the burdens of the afflicted ones. All this is prime evidence that you are the prime candidate for upholding, receiving this message which is now coming to you from the heavens, right? Subhanallah. Khadija radiallahu anha, our mother, the first believer. So subhanAllah, with that, we conclude our class for today, and looking forward to seeing you all on Monday. We will be having classes every day, meaning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and Ramadan, inshallah, the blessed month of the Quran. سبحانك وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.